But I want to go back to the example of 100 rupees that the government spends, and through that ask you a question, that out of 100 rupees, almost 51 rupees 50 paisa is going to the states, it's going into paying back interest and other items. And even the remaining 48.5 is committed on all heads: rural, education, agriculture, GDP, and other matters. Is it time that all of us realize that the center can only do so much, and that unless you raise taxes very significantly, you don't have that much surplus funds to give away and make the middle class very happy, which seems to be a bit upset after the budget, at least some sections of the middle class.
And your bhakts also seem very upset, which is something I find very interesting. They say Modi ka parivar and, big bhakt, this, that, and then they're very unhappy. When you look at your responses on Twitter and social media, what are you making? These are people who've been fiercely supportive of the BJP and the Prime Minister and this government. They seem to say, Nirmala ji ne na muh ka mizaj kharab kar diya. Tax laga ke.
I want to ask, where did I tax laga ke business? Where did I lagao tax?
So on futures and options, you've increased.
Wait a minute. And who are these bhaktas? So-called middle class, right? Futures and options is for middle class. Please don't mind me saying, why can't middle class be there? Of course they can be there. But futures and options go with risk. I'm not saying middle class shouldn't go into options or futures. And there, what is it that we've done? What kind of an increase? So, for options, it's even lesser. In futures, it's doubled from 0.0125, it's gone to 0.2. But no, that's one tax. All right, then.
Ma'am, your supporters are deeply upset with the fact that indexation benefits have been removed on long-term capital gains tax for real estate. यहाँ पे बहुत लोग बैठे हैं. जब वो बैठे थे, जब आप आने वाले थे, उन्होंने बोला यार ये सवाल जरूर पूछना, ये रियल एस्टेट पे आपने इंडेक्सेशन हटा के, people are really agitated. They think that this is not the right thing to have done.
Why not?
Because it also comes as a surprise. Because when somebody makes an investment,
tax is always given as an advance notice.
Ma'am,
no,
why not?
I'm increasing tax. Whoever says about tax in advance.
Ma'am, to interrupt on the why not, please pardon me for that, is because there are lots of people who are saying black money वापस आ जाएगा. People will underreport the formal size of the transaction and cash will be back, which since 2016 this government has gone hammer and tongs after, which is very good. That is why the question on indexation removal for housing.
Wait a minute. It's nice to conflate many things onto this debate. Haven't we as a country kept saying, why all this differentiation between the different asset class? Why can't it be simple? Why don't you rationalize it? That's been one of the very strong arguments. No, in gold the treatment is like that. In property it is like this. In stocks it's something's different. And the rates are also different. I remember people telling me, see, TCS, TDS mein itne sare rates kyun hai bhai? And again for middle class I said, if there is TCS, you can carry it forward as a credit if you want into your TDS also. All inputs which I've heard from middle class all these years. I want to respond to comments which have come to me. So when I'm asking you if I should treat all the asset class equally, with one being one thing, another thing being a bother, can we treat it all similarly? That's exactly what we've done.
Because your promise was of continuity and predictability. Now, let's for example, you've increased the long-term capital gains on equity from 10 to 12.5. Now, I am concerned. In the US, it's 20%. Now, your budget makers have said you intend to keep it 12.5, but you said in taxation, there's always some unpredictability. Next year, if there is some revenue compulsion, or 2 years later, from 12.5, it could become 15. When somebody makes an investment decision, he has some sense of what the tax outflow will be as a result of that. By taking indexation away. Now, people have invested for many years in the real estate sector in the expectation that when they exit, this is the tax and this is the indexation benefit that they'll get. Suddenly, you don't know where the ball is coming from.
So, the stability argument versus the simplicity argument. I've announced in the budget for the next 6 months, there will be a committee looking into simplifying direct taxation. If I'm doing one thing now and also the rest of it will be done through the committee, it will happen. So there is no scope in the name of stability even to respond to the requirement of make your tax system simple. I will have to change it sometime, no? At some point in time, will I have to change it or not? Or in the name of stability, never change it, even it is complex. It can't be that way. It has to, and again, I did say, not a perfect example to compare. When GST was brought in, rates which existed before, different states, different rates, all officers sat together over several sessions to understand how in some state which was in 8, 9, 10, 11%, to what rate will it go? The nearest to which GST offers. And the thumb rule there was, we don't want additional revenue, but the taxpayer should not be paying a higher rate. So you try to rationalize it by using one understanding that it shall be revenue neutral. Any movement from one rate to another, at that time that was the principle. The revenue neutrality principle was broadly used even now. 20 can come down to 12.5. 10 went up to 12.5 for the stocks. With rationalization on an average over the several years, we've calculated and took very many different examples, and after that only this 12.5 was arrived at. And immediately after the budget, the income tax, CBDT, has been releasing note after the note and frequently asked questions answered on why these amounts, why this rate was decided. It was not with a revenue consideration thought in my mind. Clearly to simplify and clearly to rationalize.